हेलो हेलो हेलो। हेलो 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 हेलो।
शायक।
The sound is coming, but there is no video. Video नहीं आ रहा है.
ओके। Good morning to everyone present here. I, Apurva Pandey, officer trainee from Uttar Pradesh, on behalf of CASFOS Dehradun Officers Club and 35th SFS induction course, extend a warm and hearty welcome to all of you. Today, we have all gathered here for the endowment of prestigious PK Sen Conservation Award on the occasion of World Wildlife Day. On 20 December 2013, at its 68th session, the United Nations General Assembly proclaimed 3rd March, the day of signature of CITES in 1973, as the United Nations World Wildlife Day to celebrate and raise awareness of the world's wild animals and plants. World Wildlife Day has now become the most important global annual event dedicated to wildlife. World Wildlife Day will be celebrated in 2022 under the theme Recovering Key Species for Ecosystem Restoration. The celebration will seek to draw the attention to the conservation status of some of the most critically endangered species of wild flora and fauna and to drive discussions towards imagining and implementing solutions to conserve them. In 2022, the World Wildlife Day will therefore drive the debate towards the imperative need to reverse the fate of most critically endangered species, to support the restoration of their habitats and ecosystem, and to promote the sustainable use for humanity. It is now my pleasure and privilege to acknowledge the presence of eminent dignitaries and guests present amongst us. Our first guest is a distinguished wildlife biologist and honorary associate of NCF. He initiated pioneering field research on free-ranging large mammals in India by studying dholes in Bandipur Tiger Reserve. His research has focused on the Asian elephants, Asiatic lion, Nilgiri thar, sloth bear, and Nilgiri langur. He also works for the conservation of endangered golden mahashir, blue-finned mahashir, and tiger. He has contributed to the training of about 300 wildlife managers, 50 MSc wildlife science students in India. He has published over 70 scientific papers and 80 popular articles on wildlife conservation. He was awarded the 2004 Distinguished Service Award for Government from Society for Conservation Biology, the Carl Zeiss Wildlife Conservation Award 2004 for lifetime service to Indian wildlife, and ABN AMRO Sanctuary Wildlife Service Award in 2005. He retired as a Dean, Faculty of Wildlife Science at the Wildlife Institute of India in October 2005. He is currently associated with WWF India as an honorary scientific advisor. On behalf of the Academy, I take this opportunity to cordially welcome our chief guest for the day, Dr. AJT John Singh sir, and to honor him, I would request Sri Bharat Jyoti sir, Director, IGNFA, to present a bamboo sapling as a token of gratitude. Please have a big round of applause. The presence of such a personality is a blessing, and we are indeed thankful to you, sir, for taking the time out of your busy schedule and marking your presence. Thank you, sir. To honor Sri Bharat Jyoti, sir, I would request our principal ma'am, Mrs. Nidhi Srivastav, to present a sapling to sir. We feel honored to have with us Dr. Saket Badola sir, IFS, Head Traffic India, and to honor him, I request Sri Ankit Gupta sir, our new faculty, to offer sapling to Sri Badola sir. And yet another Honorable Dr. Ravi Singh Sir, CEO and Secretary General, WWF India. To welcome him, I request our Course Director, Sir, Shri Amlendu Pathak, to offer sapling to Sir. We also have with us Dr. I.P. Bopanna, Landscape Coordinator, WWF India, and Dr. A.K. Singh Sir, Team Leader, Tarai Arc Landscape, WWF India. And to welcome them, I would request Shri Abhilash Damodaran Sir to present them with the sapling. Moving forward, on the occasion of World Wildlife Day, we have a very special announcement to make. CASFOS Dehradun awards the exceptional officer trainees in every batch with the number of prestigious awards for outstanding performances in various subjects of the curriculum. The list includes the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change Medal for the highest gross total marks in the batch, the Silver Medal for the best all-around officer trainee and most practical forester for the subjects like silviculture, forest utilization, forest policies and laws, forest accounts and procedures, and so on. Silver Medal for proficiency in forest management and working plan for forest resource management, environmental economics, human resource development and management. Silver Medal for proficiency in ecology for ecology and environmental science and biodiversity conservation and management. R.C. Kaushik Prize for proficiency in soil conservation and land management for natural resource management. CASFOS Association Prize for proficiency in forest engineering and surveying for the subjects of forest engineering and forest surveying. And P. Srinivas Prize in forest protection and tribal welfare for adverse influence on forest and JFM, rural and tribal development. In this context, I am pleased to announce that the competent authority in the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has approved the proposal for the institution of P.K. Sen Conservation Award for exceptional SFS officer trainees at CASFOS, Dehradun. Giving a brief introduction about Shri P.K. Sen. Padma Shri Prashant Kumar Sen was an Indian Forest Service officer of Jharkhand cadre. He endeavored to protect India's wildlife and their habitats even after his retirement from the illustrious career in the Indian Forest Service. Shri Sen's service has been immortalized through his stellar integrity, managerial skills, compassion, and commitment towards conservation. He remained an inspiring force for conservation efforts throughout the country and mentored many frontline forest staff throughout his career. He worked as a director at WWF India's Tiger and Wildlife Division. He was also the director of Project Tiger, Government of India. He guided Traffic India in its various field-level activities. The Government of India conferred on him the Padma Shri for his efforts made in the field of tiger conservation. Moving to the objectives of the award, the objective of the award is to encourage the officer trainees of the State Forest Service to develop a passion for the wildlife management and conservation in their career, and also to motivate the SFS officer trainees to develop knowledge and skills in wildlife that would ultimately result into better management of wildlife and wildlife habitats within the area of jurisdiction whenever they are posted after passing out from the academy. Telling about the eligibility criteria and guidelines, so it would be given to the highest combined marks obtained by any officer trainee in the ecological census technique field exercise and an essay competition on any contemporary topic on the wildlife management and conservation in India. The officer trainee should have the minimum attendance of 80% in the above mentioned subject and minimum of 90% attendance in the ecological census technique field exercise. In case if there is a tie between the two or more officer trainees based on the above criteria, the officer trainee with the highest conduct marks among the tied officer trainees will be selected for the award. The said award is purely for the academic excellence, restricted to the officer trainees of CASFOS Dehradun only, and it is not of national nature. Moving further, I would like to start the program by inviting Dr. Saket Badola, sir, Head Traffic India, for the opening remarks.
Thank you, Apurva, for this brilliant, I would say, introduction about the program which we are having today. Uh, I would like to first thank our chief guest, Dr. AJT Johnson, our Honorable Director, Sir, IGNFA, Mr. Ravi Singh from WWF, Principal CASFOS, ma'am, faculty of CASFOS, and other officer trainees who are sitting here. As Apurva very rightly said that today for World Wildlife Day, the theme of this year's World Wildlife Day is recovering key species for ecosystem restoration. And I would start that it's such an honor for all of us here in India, because we have really achieved some remarkable success in recovering of key species. You name several species. We were recently, Mr. Ravi Singh and I was recently in Gir, and we saw that how Asiatic land, which had really dropped, population had really dropped to a very low level, they are flourishing. Same is the story with tigers. We have 70% of world tiger population, and same with one-horn rhinoceros and others also. And we should be really proud of this. But I would also say that this all doesn't come on its own. Means there is a lot of conservation history associated with this. And for officer trainees like you who are joining the service, now, the forestry service, it's very important to go through this conservation or to learn about this conservation history, which India had, that why, how we have reached this place, what are the lessons which we should have learned or we have learned on the way. So that is very important. And for this conservation history, for learning this conservation history, there are several methods. You can read books, you can go through official files, glean through documents kind of thing. But I would say that that most interesting of that is to listen to people who have worked in this field for decades. People like Dr. AJT Johnson, people like our director, sir, or Mr. Ravi Singh, who has contributed for decades and decades at various levels, research, policy level, field level, everywhere. And this was the whole intention of planning this program today for you, where we would be hearing during the day, we would be hearing from Dr. AJT Johnson about the conservation history, what he feels, where conservation is leading to in India, where we stand in India, what are the lessons which we learned on the way, what we didn't learn, frankly, we should have learned. So that kind of thing. So that would be the prime focus. And obviously we'll hear from Honorable Director, sir, and also from Mr. Ravi Singh on this. So that's the plan for the day that we would be doing today. And the days, I think we were discussing this morning that the days are really, I would say, conservation at the global level is really passing through a very difficult times. Okay, Apurva mentioned about CITES, which was signed in 1973. India was one of the first countries, or one of the top first countries. In fact, there were 21 countries which joined CITES immediately. But we very soon we also ratified that convention, and we became part of that. So we were among the first few countries who signed CITES, and we were leaders in CITES, frankly. We organized the third COP of CITES in India. In fact, the CITES logo which you see, that was the logo which was prepared for the COP, Conference of Parties, which India hosted. But the logo was so popular that CITES adopted that logo as a CITES logo. So we have a lot of history on CITES also. So, but what we see today is really concerning, I would say. There are more than 8,400 species which are on critically endangered list. There are more than 30,000 species which are either endangered or vulnerable. So life has took us to a time where we need to do something urgently. We cannot relax. We need to work fast. We need to do something. There was a latest report, I think all of you must have read, in 2020, the IPBES report, which said that over 1 million species are on the verge of extinction. If we don't do immediately something in next few decades, they will get extinct. So that is the scale of problem which we are seeing. Illegal wildlife trade is the fourth largest criminal activity across the globe. So this is the time where all of you are entering for a service, and all of you should be really, I would say, be ready to face these challenges. And as I said initially, that all the conservation history, what happened in past, how we have reached here, that would be really important. And along with this, along with hearing about the conservation history, it is also important to learn about personalities who have shaped this conservation scenario in our country and also globally also. And Mr. P.K. Sen, who unfortunately is not with us anymore, he was a doyen of wildlife conservation in India, and Apurva has given a lot of detail about him. But I would, I know that Mr. Ravi Singh will be speaking more on him because he has worked very closely with him. And we are thankful to CASFOS, to IGNFA, and to Ministry that this award has been constituted or institutionalized for officer trainees, so that this becomes an annual feature. Every year, this award would be given. We are also thankful to WWF for supporting this award. So that is what we'll be doing. I would also say that since this is the first conservation lecture which Dr. AJT John Singh will be delivering, the inaugural lecture, but I would suggest, and Nidhi ma'am also agreed on that it can be an annual feature of CASFOS, that these conservation lecture can be an annual feature. So this is where we are. On World Wildlife Day today, we will be also launching two products. There is one newsletter and there is one ID card for owls, which we have prepared during the session today. So that's all from my side. Again, I thank Director IGNFA, Ministry, everyone who was involved in institutionalization of this award and for organizing this program, and especially looking forward to interact with the officer trainees. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Next, I would like to request Dr. AJT John Singh, sir, eminent wildlife scientist, for his technical session on wildlife conservation.
Who is going to move my slides? Okay, I would like to thank everybody for this opportunity. Usually when I talk, I take a class, I used to walk around and talk. And this is very unusual for me to stand in one place and talk. The reason why I used to walk around and talk was, if I find somebody sleeping, I used to walk towards that person very aggressively. So after that, that person will never sleep in the class. Okay, but now, today standing in one place, it will be difficult for me to do that. But I will request you not to sleep. Okay, and I hope that all of you have a notebook. I see one officer sitting without any notebook. He's looking the other way around. Everybody should have a notebook and a pen, because if you know something from my lecture, you should write it. Okay. I thought everybody is given a notebook, and please keep a notebook, and if you learn anything new, please write down. Okay. What happened? So it won't come this side, only there. Okay. So you have to look at. This is fine. I'm here talking and. I agree, but this is. They're looking at me, but the screen is there, Usually it should be on this side. It should be on this side actually, because it's very funny. Okay. No, not for me, but for the training center.
Sir, they have these TVs also. They have to be working in front of them.
Agree, fine, but anyway. Okay. So, I work with the WWF India Nature Conservation Foundation, largely formed by the students of Wildlife Institute of India. Am I clear? Audible? Okay. And I'm also associated with the Corbett Foundation. Okay. And so there's a beautiful painting. If you go to Ranthambore, I don't know the status now. I took the picture some 3 years ago. I mean, it was done by Prabhu, who was a railway minister, and Valmik Thapar, And they wanted to promote Ranthambore in that way, in the Ranthambore Savai Madhapur railway station, when people get down, they are able to see a beautiful paintings about the Ranthambore Tiger Reserve. So this you can keep it in mind actually. When you go back to your native state where you start working, now if you want to glorify a protected area, I think you can do that in the airport or in the railway station and good paintings, so people can be attracted. It's one way of communicating to the public, because a lot of people go to the railway station, in our country. And okay, so this is one thing. I think all of you should write down what I have written. It's very important. The palest thing is much more powerful than the strongest memory. One famous American professor has written that in his wildlife management techniques. The point driven home is, please write down if you learn anything new. That is a very important point. Don't think that you'll remember everything in your memory. If you think so, at the end of the day, instead of my name John Singh, you'll say Jagan Singh. Give the talk today, So write down if you learn anything new. Please write down. That's very, very important. I would recommend that all of you, when you go to field, you should have a small notebook and a pen or a pencil. If you learn anything, see anything, you please write down. That's very, very important. Okay. So I think, see, India is very, very rich in wildlife and habitat diversity and so on. And the main reason is the geographic location of India. India was part of this Gondwana landmass. It moved to the north it collided with that main landmass. After that, species migrated into India, or you will say immigrated into India. Like, species like lion, hyena came from Africa. Tiger and sambar and such species came from northeast. And snow leopard and other things came from the Palearctic region. And even there was floral migration also. Like, for example, rhododendron. We have rhododendron in Western Ghats. We have rhododendron in Sri Lanka. Mesosphaeria. I think people from Northeast India would have seen the tree with that flower, beautiful flower. That even reached Sri Lanka because the state of Sri Lanka. Okay. So there was floral migration, everything, contributed to the richness of India. We have amazing landscapes in India. This is I don't know whether you people have gone to Corbett Tiger Reserve. If you go in the best season will be to go there in the month of April. After, they burn the grassland and so on, you can see some 200 elephants. And if you are lucky to tiger also. And behind you show those hills, where you have the famous Kanda rest house where Jim Corbett shot the Kanda man-eater. I often talk about Jim Corbett. I would say that all of you should have a copy of 2 books. Jim Corbett books, you read them. I have learned a lot by reading Jim Corbett books. Okay. And another fascinating landscape is Kaziranga. And they call it as a Noah's Ark because most of the species which you have in Northeast India are found in Kaziranga. It's a fabulous place where we talk about the highest density of tiger besides Corbett Tiger Reserve. And this is in South India. Moyer landscape, unique landscape in the NJ tiger range. Because we have 4-horned antelope, we have blackbuck, elephant, gaur and everything, and it is connected to the Nilgiris where you have the Nilgiri Tar and the Nilgiri Langur. Nowhere else in the tiger range, we have such a fabulous landscape. And this was the place where Veerappan was operating in those days. Veerappan, have you heard about him? He had a big mustache. Okay. This is Aanemudi, Eraviculam National Park. One British, Hamilton, when he went there some 200 years ago, he wrote, surpassingly grand, incomparably beautiful. You have faculty Abhilash, he is here, he is from Kerala. And that is the highest mountain in the south of Himalaya. You can see that, Aanemudi Peak, because it looks ahead of the elephant. And some beautiful landscape actually there. We have rhododendron and tiger, black leopard and so on. Okay. What I'm saying, there are amazing diversity, habitat diversity in our country. We are very, very fortunate to have that. Like Saket said, our country, in spite of all our problems, we have still a lot of wildlife and amazing habitats. Now, some ecological details about India. I think you can, all of you, you'll know about it. The total forest area, the number of protected areas, tiger reserves. The problem, the last point is very, very important. The average size of our protected area is around only 300 square kilometers. If you want to think about a large mammal conservation, these are very small. You need corridors. But establishing corridors in India is exceedingly difficult because of very high human population. And most of the people are poor and they put enormous pressure on the habitat. I think we should go and see that Raiwala, between Raiwala and Haridwar, the Chilla Motichur corridor. I wrote about it 30 years ago. When I joined the institute after 2 years, I wrote about it. Still, I think it's not functional, I think. I have to go and see that they built a flyover, which was recommended a long time ago. I don't know whether the road below the flyover is broken. This is, I will say, stupid. You have built a flyover for the vehicle so that, vehicle will go. Below that, animals can move. But still the road below the flyover, if it is functional, so both are being used, am I correct? Flyover as the road below the flyover. Huh? What local use? You break the road. You have to say this, I'm telling this, I'm using the word is stupid. I'm very, very angry about it. You have taken 30 years to form the corridor. You have built a flyover for the vehicle. So that vehicle will go up, elephant and other animals can go below that. Then what is the fun in allowing the traffic to go under? When I go and say in Motichur, I will see that. I was telling Mr. Bistin, I'm very keen to see that. I think officers from Uttaranchal, they should take it as a task, to break that road, demolish the road so that nobody uses the road. All the traffic should go on the flyover only. Okay. So what I'm saying, 30, 40 years have gone, still we not simplest corridor in the country. Army and ammunition dumps, they are not willing to move because some of the army people, they have land there, they are not willing to move. Very difficult to put the flyover, but again, we're allowing the traffic to go. It should not happen. When you have a FRA, IGNFA, Wildlife Institute nearby, if you still allow that, corridor not functional, it is, I will say, I will again use the word, it's shame on us actually. This is a problem in India. I think that people don't understand, comprehend. Okay. Conservation success, due to, or many of the kings, they had hunting reserves. The British, I would say, they contributed a lot, but they also killed a lot because they brought the gun. Before that, our people were hunting with bow and arrow and so on. When the guns came, the killing was enormous. Okay. How many people are vegetarian in this class? Raise your hands. Among the faculty, only one. Niti is What I'm saying, this is one thing, nearly 30% of our population is vegetarian. If lions are doing well in Gujarat, and our Saket was telling lions are flourishing, the main reason is Gujarati is a vegetarian state. If it is in Kerala, nothing will happen because lot of Abhilash will agree with me, Kerala people will eat all the cattle. There the Gir lions are, they have lot of cattle, lot of nilgai. The Muslims, they cannot hunt nilgai because the Hindus will protest. There are pigs are there, Muslims, they don't eat pigs. So lot of prey is available to lions. The lions are flourishing. 800 lions are so in the Gir landscape actually. Okay. That's very important thing. Rajasthan, if people are protesting against Salman Khan, this poacher, actor, because people are vegetarian. They love those animals which come and raid their crops actually. Wildlife Protection Act, dedicated forest officers like P.K. Sen. He was an amazing, very interesting person actually. He used to get angry. Whenever, like me, I used to use abusive language actually. And people don't really work for conservation actually. Yeah, because he was very passionately dedicated to conservation. When you're passionately dedicated to conservation, I think you'll get angry. But I used to tell my colleagues, when you, forest department make a mistake, don't talk to them with the fire in your eyes. You know, famous Valmiki Thapar said we should talk with the fire in your eyes. It is dangerous. If you have fire in your eyes, other person will have a greater fire. You speak to the forest department with the tears in your eyes. About the corridor, I'm talking with the tears in my eyes. 30 years have gone. We are not able to step the corridor. I think one day we should take them to see that corridor. Go and let them see that. You said Ganges one side, this side we have Montichur, other forest, you know. It's very important. It's because very important corridor. If the corridor is functional, no, these forests which are on the other. Now I was told that they are going to broaden the road between Mohan to the tunnel. They are going to make 4-lane road. Already in the road, you know, there are a lot of traffic has killed animals. It's a fabulous place to look for Gural on those steep Shivalik hills. I think Gural you can see. Now the road becomes 4-lane. Lot of animals will die on the road actually. Okay. And see, I have written one of the 2 countries to have 4 species of bear. What are the 4 species of bear we have in India? Anybody in the class? Tell me. Huh? What did you say? Himalayan sloth bear?
First one is sloth bear, second one is Asiatic black bear, third one is a sun bear and Mali bear.
Black bear, brown bear.
Yes, a brown bear.
There is one more country which has got 4 species. What is that country? Anybody? When I came here, the faculty told me, sir, don't ask questions to the faculty. China, they have the Jain panda. Okay, they don't have sloth bear, they have Jain panda. What I'm saying, these are all some basic information we should have. We should be very proud. We have 4 species of bear, but China, our the greatest enemy, I would say, that they also have 4 species of bear. That Jain panda comes in the bear family. Okay, and you know, modern methods used in wildlife research, camera trap, GPS. I mean, we have tracking animals with the GPS collars, genetic studies, and use of dogs in crime. I think as officers, you know, when you go to your protected areas, many of the protected areas, tiger reserves, your dogs, they do amazing work. In Bandipur, there was one dog. I think still it may be there. 2 fellows, you know, they came and did some timber smuggling. The dog traced them to that village. So the forest department caught those culprits, you know, they had timber and everything stolen. And so when the villagers came to know that 2 people have committed this sin, they were against, one fellow committed suicide because everybody was abusing him. What is this? You brought shame to your village. Then once in another, one tiger died in Bandipur. Some local people, you know, they removed the teeth, the cunning teeth and the claws, and they were hiding it in one bush. The dog went and found it. So what I'm saying, the dogs are doing amazing work, and because of the dog, people are very much afraid also. They know, you know, that the guards may not be able to come and catch you, but the dogs will track you. And so use of dogs in conservation is very, very important. And there is a lot of public participation in our country. Students and everybody, you know, NGOs, they take part in conservation. Okay. So now, like, how do you manage wildlife? Usually we put a lot of effort on protection. Okay. Second point, water hole management. I think here forest department gets a very bad name. Remember that. Unnecessarily we put develop water holes. In many places, maybe river flowing close to the river, they build a water hole. And they say that we get the money money in March or in February, we have to finish the money before March. So we dig a water hole. Please, please. It's not at all needed. You know, like we did some telemetry study in Sariska. We found a sambar can go 4 kilometers to drink water. Cheetal can go 2 kilometers to drink water. If you go to Bandipur tourism zone, everywhere water holes. 80 square kilometer, maybe there are 80 water holes. This is not good actually, because you create a high density of animals. As a result, there is no regeneration of, edible species, all eaten by animals. Okay. This, I think, is the greatest accusation against the forest department, developing water holes, too many water holes, unwanted water holes. Remember that point actually, okay? Weed control, this is a huge problem in our country. Many of our forest areas full of weeds. Pantana. In Bandipur, when I did my wild dog study, there is no Cassia spectabilis on weed. Now it is full of that plant. Some officer plant, forest officer who it's got spectabilis. The flowers are very, beautiful with the golden flowers. He thought it's a beautiful flower, let me have it, he would have planted it. Again, a stupid thing to do. It's an exotic. Now it is everywhere in Bandipur. When I did my work in there, 76, 78, there was no Cassia spectabilis in Bandipur. That the lower Nilgiris is full of that plant now. And Wayanad is full of that. Why not, wildlife sanctuary in Kerala, which has a very high density of tigers. Forest department is helpless. At least, they are able to uproot lantana and plant something and, like they do in Madhya Pradesh. But helpless against this plant now. They may be able to evict encroachers, but they are not evict these plants, like lantana. And it's a huge problem. And the lack of regeneration. Many of our tree species, which are very, very crucial for animals, they don't have proper regeneration. This is one thing I think IGNF and all should address this problem. However, how are you going to promote regeneration in our forest? They said there should be children in the population, human population. See, why are you worried about Russia and all? They have a lot of old people, not many young people. But on the contrary, we are very, very lucky in India. We have a lot of young people. Similarly, in the forest also, we need many, many young trees coming up. You come to Bandipur, Nagarkole, fabulous timber trees, we find them, but there is no regeneration. So as forest officers, I tell you should be really worried about it. And I don't see any sign of worry with the forest department about it. They're not, looks like they're not bothered about it. Okay. Next. I'm going to show you some of my pictures. Like, there is a picture of Gural. By reading Jim Corbett books, Chambawat Man-Eater, write down Chambawat Man-Eater story, you should read Jim Corbett book. He talks about shooting Gural. He describes the Gural habitat. So when I first came to, Rajaji, that was in 82 or 83, I was going with one SCF. Looking at the hills, I told him, he's no more, one Verma, he's no more. I told him there should be Gural. He said there's no Gural here. But when I joined the institute, today I understand we are going to Dolkend, joined the institute. I don't know whether that Niti and all, we went up the Gural Ridge in Rajaji. I told my colleague Rawat, when we were staying in Dolkend, Rawat, look at that hill, looks like Gural habitat to me. This is in 86. We went up within 2 hours, we saw 5 Gural. But till then, forest department had not recorded Gural in their list. Can you believe that? Then Rajaji was with the UP. So if you look at the list of mammals, only in 1987, they recorded Gural. What I'm saying, Gural was there. When you ask the Gujars who were living there, they knew that Gural are there. Because they used to say that whenever the tiger activity, Gural used to come close to your the ridge top and give alarm call. How does it give the alarm call? Shh, shh. That type of alarm call they make. They stamp the 4 feet and make the alarm call. So Gujars are knowing it, but forest department had not recorded. That officer who had worked in 4 years in Rajaji, he was not knowing that there was, because he was not even talking to the Gujars. What type of wildlife we have here? I think this attitude should change. You should, like Saket was telling, you can enrich your knowledge by reading, listening to talks. A lot from the local people also who have been living there actually. No, so when you meet the local people, ask them those questions actually. Okay, so I got a Gural picture. I was told this is the first best picture of Gural taken by anybody in the world actually. Okay, so when I went to Bandipur, that was 76, 78 project had been started, and there were some 20 tigers in Bandipur. Now they say Bandipur has got more than 100 tigers. And nobody had taken picture of tiger in Bandipur. So I found a place, one Nalla, or there's a mango tree where I had put a machan. Machan means a place to sit. I put a rope because it was some 15 feet high. Using a rope, I used to climb and wait. I got this picture. Mr. Ravi Singh has kindly enlarged that picture and put it in WWF India guest house. Hope it is still there. So if you go to Delhi WWF office, you can see a black and white picture. 100 is a film, okay? And you can make it a big enlargement actually, okay? So what I'm saying, this is one thing, when you go into, try to take some nice challenging pictures. Encourage your staff to do that actually. Tell them that if you bring a great picture of a Gaur or a, Sambar, you'll be awarded, So that should. So the tribals are very, very important in conservation. In South India, for example, Periyar, they make use of the tribals very well. Parambikulam, Anamalai. The tribals are very. This is a kitchen now. He was working with me when I did my study. Kuruba tribal. He used to walk barefooted only. Short fellow. Once in a month only will take bath. Okay. And always he'll have the knife with me. Okay. Very brave fellow, but he used to advise me, sir. One day when a tiger was in a sambar kill, I told Kichana, let me go and take a picture. Sir, don't do that. It can very aggressively, it can come and attack you. Don't do that. He used to give me a lot of good advice. It's a very interesting thing. I saw him after 10 years after my study. I had a scar on the hand. So I asked Kichana, when you were working with me, there was no scar. How did you get the scar now? He told me, sir, one day I was going, a male sloth bear tried to come and attack me. Sloth bear, when it wants to attack people, it will rise on the hind legs. When it came and trying to, he got to hold of the forelegs of the sloth bear. He's a strong fellow, small fellow, but very strong Kichana. So he said the sloth bear bit me here on the right hand. So what he did was, he gave a powerful kick in the scrotum of the sloth bear. It's a male sloth bear. I tell you, he kicked and pushed it and it screamed and ran away. Then he said, sir, I quickly went up the tree and but that bear. So I used to tell this once I took some diploma trainees to Periyar and I was telling them the story. So they asked me, sir, if it's a female sloth bear, what shall we do? If you are attacked by a female sloth bear, what shall you do? I said, then you hug the bear and tell, I love you. Huh? This is another interesting picture I took. I was, when one Ravichalam was doing the research on lions, we were collaring some lions. I was sitting up in a tree waiting for the lion to come. We tied a goat and this leopard came. This one of the bulls I collared in Rajaji, big boss. It never used to be very aggressive. It was in a ridge top. I was sitting below that. I took some 40 pictures, black and white pictures and color pictures actually. It never he raided the crops. This is a very important point you remember. He never raided the crops. The reason was he had not lost his habitat to agriculture. So any elephant which loses a habitat to the agriculture, they become crop raider. We got another elephant called Tipu, which also we radio collared and followed it. Used to move across this, between one half of Rajaji, another half of Araji. Used to do a lot of crop raiding because his habitat was lost to agriculture. So when you Northeast India, you have a lot of problem. I was told there are some 7-8 trainees from West Bengal, North Bengal. A lot of conflict in North Bengal, West Bengal with the elephants. The reason is, loss of habitat to tea gardens. Okay. And see, behind you see the Gujarats, they have lopped all the trees. This picture I took in Chilla, which is Chillas on the right side of Ganges. And now, hopefully, all the trees would have regenerated. The forest department had done a great job for relocating Gujarats. This again my first leopard picture in Bandipur. There was a tiger kill. I wanted to wait for the tiger. I climbed a tree. Then I found a leopard was in a nearby tree. Possibly the leopard also climbed the tree to avoid the tiger. It was looking at me. I looked at the leopard, but there was no aggression on the face of the leopard. Okay, but it is a black and white picture. 400 years, I can't make any big enlargement. See, look at the whiskers. What are whiskers? What you call in the men in a mustache. Okay, and In my opinion, the whiskers in the case of tiger and leopard, they help in know the wind direction. Because they have to stalk the prey upwind. If there is sambar there, the tiger has to go upwind. They cannot go downwind. If it goes, what will happen? The smell will go to the sambar. Sambar will run away. So the whiskers are, in my opinion, whiskers are used by this leopard and tiger to know the wind direction. Okay. So if you have an opportunity to see a tiger stalking, you please record the wind direction also. Okay. How will you know the wind direction? If you're a smoker, it is good. If smoke in the air, the wind will. That is the only benefit of smoking, I tell you. If anybody is smoking, you can do that only for knowing the wind direction, for nothing else. Okay. I mean, after I went retired and I was doing a survey, study in the Western Ghats. And the Moyar River, it is between Bandipur and Mudumalai and Satyamangalam forest. I took this picture while going on foot actually. This is in the southernmost tiger reserve, what you call Talakad Mundadiri Tiger Reserve. I took the picture of this gaur. It's a very interesting thing. I was sitting among the bushes on the ground. The water hole was in front. The water to the water hole was coming from a solar pump. So the evening, I went there actually take some pictures of sambar actually, but this gaur bull came. I thought that gaur bull will drink water from the other side and go, but he was coming in my direction. Then I got really afraid because if it see me, if it smells me sitting in the bushes, it can become aggressive or it can run away. So the gaur, when it attacks people, they don't come and hit like that. They use the tip of the horn like a knife, like you attacking somebody with a knife, I know, one of our researchers from WWF, he was doing a tar survey in Parambikulam. When he was up in the hills, they came across a gaur bull which was resting. Possibly it was harassed by a tiger, so it was in a very bad mood. He chased, the guard ran away. This fellow tripped and fell down. It's a very fit fellow from Nilgiris, very fit fellow. And he fell down. Fortunately, I will say he fell on his back. So the gaur came and tore his belly. Intestine, everything came out. Fortunately, this guard had a walkie-talkie. So he informed the staff. All the staff from Parambikulam, they came with stretcher and then carried him to Coimbatore, and he got treated, and he is, he recovered fully and he's still doing his field work and so on. What I'm saying, the gaur bull can be dangerous, particularly if it is harassed by some predator. If he happen to go there very silently, if he go openly, that if the gaur is able to see, then it will run away. Okay. This is a very rare picture. Again, nobody in India has this type of picture actually. Gaur calf assemblage in Periyar Tiger Reserve. You see gaur cows with a group, but not a group of gaur, in a meadow habitat like this. See, remember that nowadays most of the elephants, they have the dagger-like tusk. You see the elephants anywhere in the country, the tuskers. Most of the, because the sweeping tusk, are lost by the population. They have only dagger-like tusk, which is very deadly in the combat. So here two Nilgai bulls are fighting. That day when I took this picture, George Shaler was with me and Rajaji. Rahmani was with me, Dr. Rahmani was with me. Panda was driving the vehicle. And the two Nilgai bulls were fighting, and there were 6 females who were watching who is going to win. But I tell you that both look bloody, lot of injuries on the top, after that, and possibly they will not have any interest in the female actually. What I'm saying, animals with that, like wild boar, barking deer, and deer with spike antlers, Chital, Sambar, when they are 1 year old, they grow the spike antlers, they can be very deadly. In those days in the FRA campus, we had a zoo, we have the zoo. One barking deer came, it's from somebody brought a male barking deer, it attacked the zookeeper. There are reports of barking deer killing dogs also because they have the canine. So what I'm saying, any animal with a sharp weapon is very dangerous. Wild boar. Okay. Nilgai. You should be very, very careful. If you are having deer in the zoo, if it is a big animal with a big antler, possibly when it's trying to attack you, you can hold on to that antler. But if it has got a spike antler, hard spike antler, it can be like a dagger, it can injure you. Okay. I always talk about tiger conservation associated with the sambar conservation. Write down this logo. In the hilly area, sambar conservation is tiger conservation. If Corbett has got good number of tigers, the reason is good number of sambar, no wild dog. Remember that point. No wild dogs in Corbett tigers, sir. No wild dog in Kasiranga. No competition. But in Kana, Bandipur, all those places there are wild dogs. They compete with the tiger for food actually. Okay. This picture was taken by Bhuminathan, who is working with the WWF India and South. And that animal looks very dark in color because it has come out of wallowing. What is wallowing? Anybody? Huh? Rolling in the mud. Remember that point. It's done only by the sambar stags in hard antler during the rutting season, during the breeding season. Not in other season. You know, all these things, you know, suppose we all walk in the forest, it will be very nice to talk about it. But in the classroom, you know, you have to visualize a wallow and sambar stag rolling in the mud. Okay. It's not done by the female. It's done by the stags in velvet. Only the hard antler stags, they do that. Wallowing in the mud. After that, you know, they go to a nearby tree and they preach, stand on the hind legs and rub the preorbital gland. That's why, you know, that animal leave the signage. Okay. Say sambar, you know, since it is a forest living animal, you know, it does not give the rutting call. Spotted deer will give the rutting call. Anybody can mimic the rutting call of spotted deer? Anybody in the class? Have you listened to rutting call of spotted deer? What is this? You not listen to the rutting call of spotted deer? Second?
They must have, but they are not able to.
Can you replicate? You can't. It's more like this, and I can do that actually. So when you go to forest, you know, when you see that cheetal giving the rutting call, observe it actually. Then you can also mimic like me. Okay, keeping the head up, you know, it will give the male will in hard antler will a rutting call. Sambar does not do that. Cheetal does it. Parasinga will do that. Red deer in Dachikam will do that. Hangul. Because sambar is a forest living animal, it gives a rutting call, you know, standing and calling like this, you know, it is inviting the tiger, you know, dangerous. So a forest living sambar, they don't give the rutting call. Remember that point. Cheetal, they do that. Barasing also, I mean, spotted, I mean, like barking deer also, they don't do that actually. Okay. North India, I used to say now North India is ruled by the Jesus macaques, not by the politicians. Very aggressive animals. You have a big population in FRA campus also. I have a picture taken by last time, some years ago, when I came here, the dog chasing them. A big male went up and he tried to attack the dog also. Okay. And they are invading South India. The aggressive North Indian macaques are invading South India. The bonnet already has lost some 30,000 square kilometer habitat to rhesus macaque. It's a very dangerous animal. Unfortunately, you know, our people, they may not feed the poor, but they feed the monkeys. Okay. On the road to Haridwar and all, you see a lot of garbage on the roadside. One reason is people, you know, they feed the monkeys. I don't know whether on the campus they feed the monkeys. That should be totally stopped. People should not feed these animals. Any wild animal should not be. I think we should be very. This is one thing. I have one side, you know, you have the orange finned mahseer on the left, I mean, to the left side, other side is the blue finned mahseer. The orange finned mahseer is endemic to Kaveri Basin. Kaveri Basin means, you know, the rivers which are connected to the Kaveri. It can grow up to 150 pounds. Unfortunately, some 30-40 years, you know, people thought, you know, let us have more mahseer. They introduced the blue finned mahseer from Lonavala, which is near Pune. Now that mahseer, the population of bluefin mahseer will grow up to 50 pounds, but the other one can grow up to 150 pounds. Now the population of the orange finned mahseer has come down. Bluefin mahseer population is, I mean, now they're trying to save that orange finned mahseer, but the chances are very, very remote. There's a lot of bluefin mahseer which you have in places like Parambikulam, Periyar, and so on. Okay. See, this is one thing. Uttaranchal this picture of golden mahshir I took in the Infinity Resorts, the Kosi River near Corbett. Okay, it's protected by the Ramnagar Forest Department and the Dilip Katav of the Corbett Foundation. See that one pool, so much of fish. And Uttaranchal has got 500 kilometers of river. If there is good protection, little bit of feeding and protection, the entire river stretch can have a lot of fish. We are not able to do that. The reason is dynamity. So the famous Corbett Tiger Reserve, I have been visiting Corbett Tiger Reserve 1982 onwards. There's a place called High Bank. In the 80s, when you go and stand in the High Bank, you will see big, big fishes. Now we don't see them. The reason is during the rainy season, remember that point, the fishes, they go out of the park for spawning. During the rains, they go out of the... Uttaranchal, both the Brahmins as well as the Rajputs, they eat meat, they eat fish. So a lot of people are waiting outside with the dynamite and everything, they kill everything. So most of the fish which leave Corbett, boundary of Corbett for spawning is what? The female will lay the eggs, and over that, the male will put the sperm, what we call milt. So fertilization happens outside, spawning. They don't come back because people kill them actually. See, this is one thing you have to remember in mind. If you want to help this mahshir conservation in a place like Corbett, you have to promote angling. Angling which will benefit local people. Anglers go there, they catch a fish, take a photograph and release it, they pay money to the villagers. Only that can save the fish. Any, protection on paper and on will not work. You may have more tigers in Corbett Tiger Reserve, but the situation of mahshir in Corbett Tiger is not very good because we are not able to give protection when they go outside for spawning. But remember, with Northeast India, you have fabulous rivers, involve the people and you promote angling. So then only that local people will get some benefit. They will take interest in protecting the fish. Anybody from Nagaland? Nagaland? So far, okay, two only, okay. So I used to tell the Naga people, people from Nagaland, you kill only wild pig. Don't kill any other animal. Because you have good forest area, and then, your Sero can come, barking deer can come back, Sambar can come back, even Gaur can come back. Kill only one pig. Okay, that is my request to you, please. And don't dynamite your rivers. You go for angling, go for cast net catching. Don't go for dynamiting. Okay, dynamiting will kill everything. Even the ova, the fertilized, they can be killed by king cobra. Corbett Raja is a great place for king cobra. Even Worries also, there are places. Western Ghats also great. Do king cobra chase people? Tell me. Tell me quickly. See, I thought I'll speak for 1 hour, but when I saw the program, I'm given only 45 minutes. So you should answer me quickly. Do king cobra chase people? No, they're very shy animals. Very. Rajaji, one day in those days, when I joined the institute with some researchers, I was walking in Dolkend where we are going. In one place, I encountered a 9-foot king cobra. Encounter, accidentally I met. It went into a coil and darted towards me. I jumped back. Then it went away. Just it wanted threat display. And one researcher, he record. I used to tell them, you record everything in your field notebook. So that evening, I checked that he had written, Dr. John Singh was attacked by king cobra. I was only, there was a threat display only. I was not attacked. But poor fellow had written, his English was not very good actually, So he had written, Dr. John Singh was attacked by king cobra. Yaba, I am still alive. I was not attacked by king cobra. A lot of research was done on king cobra by Ram Vitekar in Agumbe Ghat in Western Ghats. They did radio telemetry. They found you catch, after radio collaring, they released an animal far from the home range where it was caught. He said, then the home range of the animal became nearly 100 square kilometers. In the process of going, the homing instinct, the process of going back to the home range, it covered a very vast area. But if you release it closer to the home range, only 20-25 square kilometer area. So any animal, you take and leave it far away, then it wants to come back to what you call homing instinct. Write down that point. You learn about homing instinct. Homing instinct of salmon. Salmon in North America and all. They go to the river, the young are born there. Then they go to the sea. After 6-7 years, they come back to the same stream. Amazing homing instinct of salmon. You nowadays Google, you can. I live in Bangalore. I do have some books, library and everything, but I learn a lot from Google actually. You can make use of Google and homing instinct of animals, you can read actually. Okay. This I was telling. Vehicles have killed or are killing more animals than poachers. 30 sambar, if it gets killed, animal prey for the tiger is gone. Okay, a tiger needs minimum 30 sambar in a year, 50 cheetal actually. That picture of this red fox I took near Nainital. This sambar picture was taken by Vivash Pandar, who is the director of BNHS near Haridwar. Okay. Now, how will you address this problem? I think you would put good signages. See the beautiful signage put by WWF India on the Satyamangalam Shamrajnagar road. Okay. And then we have that what you call speed breakers on the road. This is a very important point. You have to do that actually. Wherever animals cross, you identify the places, put the good signage. So people. See, another thing, when people drive through the forest area, wildlife area, I don't know why should they go at 60 kilometer speed. They should go only at 20-30 kilometer speed, enjoying wildlife. I think this is one thing we should impose. Like Kasiranga now, they have the highway. What they do? Not only camera trapping, they have give it shit to you. This is the time you are entering. You should go there and such time pass. Very important to do that, such things. Another thing I will request to all of you, in protected areas, all the vehicles should have a garbage bag. All the vehicles should have a. Otherwise, our stupid fellows, what they do, drink and throw it away in the forest. At least our forest area should be kept clean of garbage. Very difficult to keep our, city and villages clean because a lot of garbage. Because if you are finding garbage in this FRA campus, such a place, why should people throw garbage here? Okay. So what I'm saying, you have to, don't burn garbage. See, our staff and all collect the plastic by they burn it. Don't do that. Burning plastic is very dangerous. You pack them everything and go and dump it in the village because vehicles are going to the village and the town. Dump it there. Don't burn anything. You tell your staff, don't burn garbage in the forest area. Okay. This is a very interesting. Look at the anti-poaching camp built by on the right side. To me, right, the white one. Like it. This is in Uttaranchal actually. Okay, Shyambur range, which is part of Rajaji. Nobody is using it. Actually, we have to find out that officer who built it and ask him to pay for it actually. Look at the other side, another anti-poaching, Mundiapani anti-poaching camp, Corbett Tiger, northern boundary built by the British more than 100 years ago. The British, it's still being used by the people. Very happily they are using it. But this anti-poaching built some 10-20 years ago, abandoned near that ashram. There is an ashram also nearby, Now look at this. Excellent anti-poaching camp built in Jaldapara Wildlife Sanctuary, West Bengal. You have to build the anti-poaching camps which are very comfortable. There should be perennial water supply. Don't build anti-poaching camps in places where there is no water. The staff, they need water for drinking, to wash their kapada, to take bath. Please remember that point. Such an anti-poaching camp, the terrace, you can, when the summer you can sleep there. Rainy season, you can dry your kapada there. Build such beautiful anti-poaching camps. Like, our Bannerghatta National Park near Bangalore, they have built many. No staff can stay there in summer. No aeration. Any anti-poaching camp you build please build it. It should be very comfortable for the staff to stay. Water is very important. This is Kuno Wildlife Sanctuary. I think this was developed with the Madhya Pradesh Forest Department for bringing lions. What happened? Lions have not come to Kuno. You know what's the reason? Anybody? Huh? Faculty? What? Huh? Which government? Our Modi, when he was chief minister, it seems he has written in red ink in the file, lions will not be given for the second home. So one officer, was traveling with me train in those days, from Delhi to Dehradun in the first class. He told me, sir, now even the God cannot change it. But Modi, as a Prime Minister of India, can change it. But Gujarat people are not willing to give the lions. They are very, very possessive about the lions. Okay. And the Sokuna, now they are trying to bring cheetah there. They say June, July, cheetah will be coming. One has to watch how cheetah is going to adapt in a place where there are hills, where there are dense forest, good number of leopards. It will be very interesting to watch actually. Okay. This is one thing I'll make a use, I think people may be using, gas for cooking, but gas prices are going up. What's the price now? One cylinder. Recently it was increased, more than 1,000 rupees. 900 rupees. The poor people, one day they'll be forced to again go back to firewood. Do you agree with me? So I forested, the Dalbija Susu tree. You see that anti-poaching camp near the Latimeri anti-poaching camp near Kasiranga. That's a 5 years old, the tree. It comes up very well in many places in the country. That is the only native species which you can grow for firewood. Otherwise, you have to go for, you have to go for eucalyptus or Acacia auriculiformis, Casuarina. But people say that's an exotic. In my opinion, a good exotic should be made use of for conservation. But Dalbijas is, remember, Northeast India, people remember that Assam and all, anywhere you plant within 5 years, it can be available as a firewood actually. This is very, very important. Look at that chula. This picture I think with northern boundary. Huge chula. To make a tea also they put a log because they are closer to the boundary of the forest actually. Okay. This is one thing, when you have a program, if you do that properly, like this trout hatchery, in Arunachal Pradesh. I went there some 4 or 5 years ago, supported by WWF India to see their program. And when I saw the trout hatchery, since I'm interested in angling, I went there and asked. There was nothing in the trout hatchery, only small fry. So I asked the Chowkidar, what happened? Sir, all the VIPs, they come and eat everything, sir. So I spoke to the collector. I told him, the collector said, this defense minister from Goa, who's no more now. What's his name? Parikar. Parikar came, he wanted to have some trout for his whiskey. We could not get trout for the defense minister. I said, yes, again, it's shame of Uttaranchal. Arunachal, have fantastic streams and everything. You have a trout hatchery and you're not able to give some trout to the defense minister. Poor minister goes all the way to have some trout and whiskey, but he's not able to get it. So what I'm saying, if we have a program, do it properly. In the Avalanche, in the Nilgiris, we have another shame there. The British had a fantastic trout hatchery. Now the fellows there in the fisheries department, they use it only for corruption, making money. Like, if you have a, what I call sanctuary water body, like Icarnia, full of that weed. That's not the way to maintain a water body. Okay. On the other side, the water bodies which are maintained by the people, they grow a lot of fish, harvest fish. See, this is one thing in Assam. Look at the number of people, even children also trying to catch fish. There are more people in the water body than fish. There is, look at that, 2 species are throttling that water body. One is Acarnia, another is Icomia. Ravi Singh wrote a letter to the Chief Minister of Assam. See, you have so many water bodies. If you manage them very well, you'll be able to export fish. Instead of getting fish from Andhra people are very clever. They grow a lot of fish which goes all the way to even Bhutan also. So he wrote a letter to the Chief Minister, we are willing to work with you and let us all clear these water bodies and grow fish so that people who have fish will be able to even export fish. He acknowledged the letter, but nothing happened after that. Am I correct? Okay. This
happened in Bengal.
Bengalis are very fond of. How many Bengalis are here? They love fish, you know.
Bengal is called.
Yeah, they love sweetwater fish. Okay, so I have to hurry up, you know, because sorry. Recently, I went to Nagarola range. It looks green. Looks green. Lot of grass. This is inedible grass. So I told the forest man, you go for cool season burning. There's a problem in a lot of goats and sheep we find in many areas. Grazing, poor people, they use them actually. The Nilgiris and Kodaikanal, we have another problem. Lot of gaur. But people are not willing to, control the population. What will you do? The challenge, people get injured, sometimes they die also. And the gaur, they walk through the towns. This is one thing, the captive elephant management. The tribals in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka are a model. They can even catch a big bull, 9 feet rogue, they can train it in 3. Even in Assam. Anybody from Assam? Nobody. Okay, even in Assam, they don't catch big bulls and train them actually. Only smaller animals, they train them actually. What I'm saying, these tribal magots, the tribals are very, very important. If there are tribals, you care for them very, very well. Okay, garbage. For this collection of this Chinese caterpillar, people go in the up in the Himalayas, they throw a lot of garbage. So garbage is everywhere. Kebula Ancho, any from Manipur, the class? Okay, there is a small population confined to that. See, any species confined to a small population, one population, that population is prone to extinction. Remember that point, okay? And reintroduction is a great conservation tool like now this Barasingha they introduced in Bori Wildlife Sanctuary in Satpura. Madhya Pradesh Forest Department is very, very active. In Dudhwa they have reintroduced rhino. Rhinos are doing well. So reintroduction is a great conservation tool. Like in pygmy hog, another successful reintroduction, conservation breeding and reintroduction program. The gharial is much more critically endangered than the mugger. The reason is they have weak forelegs. A crocodile can walk 100 meters, 200 meters and go to some place, but the gharial cannot do that. They have weak forelegs and they are food specialists. Okay. If you are a food specialist, then you have a problem. If you say that I'll eat only idli, what I will do when I come to North India? What I'm saying, will not get idli everywhere in North India. So if you're a food specialist, you have the problem. Avoid unnecessary construction. Like, Nilgiris, we have fences on either side of the road in the upper Nilgiris. The Nilgiris is the most beautiful district for wildlife and scenery and water in whole of India. And in that Mukkurji National Park, they have unnecessarily, they built some 7 check dams along the beautiful stream. Unnecessarily. Okay, avoid unnecessary constructions, Okay. That what is called, this is called the yarding behavior of Chital and Barasingha. Chital and Barasingha in some places they night, they come and assemble. Identify these places, you protect them well. Snaring is a huge problem. Even elephants, they suffer from snaring. I think I'll skip this because it's a long story actually. See, tiger conservation, Rajaji, the tigers were coming from Corbett, but they were not breeding there because there was, the Gujas were living there. Gujas, although they are Muslims, they don't poach. They don't kill animals. Disturbance. What I'm saying, disturbance and tiger conservation cannot go together. When the Gujas were resettled, tigers immediately started breeding. Okay, that's a story which comes out of Rajaji. See, when a tiger kills somebody, it goes for the head. It crushes the skull. A leopard will go for the throat bite. Okay? And a leopard, killing somebody for food is done only in the cover of darkness because, they never lose fear of man. Okay? See the way that people are carrying guns in this picture. I took it in Manas. Sonali Ghosh is in the middle. Okay? This is the very way to carry your guns. Either up or down, it should be pointed. Okay? Many places, that people carry the guns very carelessly. This should not happen actually. Lack of regeneration. I think in your forest area, which is a very, this is in Ranthambore, this Anaji Spendula forest, which is reason for the high density of sambar there. Here you see that the goat and sheep eating parthenium. Parthenium is a huge problem, but goats and goats and sheep, they feed on them. So whatever mutton you eat is largely from Parthenium. Parthenium mutton. See, remember this point. As long as there is a demand in China and Vietnam, there will be poaching. Poaching of rhino, poaching of elephants, for ivory. This is a huge problem. Dogs attacking wildlife. There is a wild dog picture which I took in Bandipur in those days. Dogs attacking wildlife. How will you address the problem of dogs? Tell me. In my opinion, the staff should be given 2 rifle. Shoot them. If you see them inside the wildlife area, simply shoot them and throw them into the ditch. A leopard will come and eat it actually. But it is very dangerous to say that. Once I told like this, and a Bengali girl from South Africa wrote to me, next day, email, saying that how can you say the dog should be shot? Menaka Gandhi, if she comes to know about it, she will take you into task. Mithun in Northeast India. See that meadow habitat, hog deer is very, very important. I was showing of the Moyar Gorge, Moyar. Unfortunately, a lot of this Wapensia. It's a huge problem there, which needs to be addressed. This last slide, what I'm saying, exceedingly challenging wildlife conservation in India. Too many poor people, lukewarm political support, numerous invasive plants, garbage, lack of regeneration. Okay, and I give list of the books which you have to read. I would recommend all of you to read good wildlife books. The Jim Corbett books are very, very important. I think you can give the presentation to them. They can take it and home and look at it very good. Read a lot of books because knowledge is your strength. Okay, and keep walking in the jungle. It's very, very important. If you walk, you'll be healthy, your family will be healthy, then the forest will be healthy, nation will be healthy. With that, I finish. Thank you very much. Had I known I'm supposed to talk only for 40 minutes, I had some 58 pictures, I should have brought in 40. If there are any questions, you can ask me. Thank you very much.
So the forum is open for discussion. If any OT has any query, he and she or she can ask.
Sit down.
Tigers, leopards, and wolves can know to coexist only in a few pockets like Bandipur. We have good prey population in other protected areas as well. So why only in Bandipur and adjacent areas we have the three animals coexisting?
See, we had wild dogs using even Corbett also. If you go to the old hunting literature, am I audible? Yes. Don't do. No need, because it vibrates. Okay. So if you read through the old hunting literature, even in Rajaji they were there. They died out. So fortunately, the Mudumalai Bandipur area is that, what you call, I call it Nilgiri landscape. The 5,000 square kilometer area, the best in whole of Asia for large mammal conservation. Remember that one. Nilgiri landscape is the best in the whole of Asia for large mammal conservation. So there, see, they're very vulnerable to wild dogs, particularly, they're very vulnerable to disease. Because we have a lot of free-ranging dogs in the country. Don't call them stray dogs. Free-ranging dogs. And many of them are infected with rabies and canine disease. So they can affect the jackal population. They can affect the dole population. Very vulnerable. George Scheller, famous George Scheller. I think you should give them an assignment, go through what are the books George Scheller has written, amazing person. I think he should be 85 now. And when I took the Nilgiri picture, 2 animals fighting, but he was even then, recording everything in his notebook. Okay. So, good place, some like here, if you read that our Arjun Singh book, Tiger Hana, he talks about wild dog in Dudua. So they were there, but they disappeared. And it's not possible for a population to again go into that area and occupy the territory. Okay. So for all the 3 species to occur, you need what is it? 3 things are important. One is a hilly terrain. Hilly terrain, leopard can escape, tiger. Climbable trees. Leopard also need climbable trees when they are chased by wild dog and tiger. A lot of smaller prey like cheetal for and those and the leopard actually. And large prey for like sambar and everything for tiger. So if all these things are there, all the 3 predators can occur. Okay. But remember, wild dogs are very vulnerable to disease. That point you have to remember. Tiger and leopards are not so much. Hope I have answered your question.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Shayad Datta, OT from West Bengal. Am I audible, sir?
Sir, some days back, the Wildlife Institute of India has said that Sundarban Tiger Reserve is overpopulated. So, if we go for transportation of tigers, it is very difficult to transport tigers of Sundarban in some different areas. So, in your opinion, what should be the way out?
See, I would say that I was very lucky to visit the BIST and ISS BIST, Mr. Bengal Cadet Officer. Okay, he helped me to visit.
I'm sorry, sir. My name is Arijit Vasu and I'm from West Bengal.
You're from West Bengal. Okay, I'm telling you, Mr. BIST, ISS BIST, who retired as PCCF from West Bengal, he helped me to go to Sundarbans. 2 nights, I was given a launch. So for 150 kilometers, we went by boat in different places. We saw some 4 or 5 cheetal, 4 or 5 wild pigs. I will say low prey density. That is a huge problem in Sundarbans. I don't think that the tiger population is huge there. Vast area, 2 Sundarbans together in some 10,000 square kilometer area. How many tigers we got? Less than 100. It's not overpopulated there. The problem is low prey availability in Sundarbans for the tiger. Okay, and very difficult to rectify that situation also. Long time ago, they had animals like Barasingha, they had rhinos and buffaloes and everything, all dead and gone now. You can't reintroduce them. So limited prey. Some macaques there, rhesus macaques there, then you got some pig and you got some cheetal. Low prey, that's a huge problem in Sundarbans. Entire Sundarbans, Bangladesh and India Sundarbans.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Shayad Datta, OT from West Bengal. Am I audible, sir? Am I audible?
Shayad,
Yes, am I audible?
can you hear us?
I can hear you. Am I audible? Can you hear me? Is my voice audible? Yes, okay.
Speak a bit louder.
Okay, just let me know. Sir, I had one question. recently I had been to Panna Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh, and over there, one of the issue which was pointed out to me by the field director, sir, was that when Project Tiger had started, uh, we had tried to increase the number of tigers in the country. That is understood, but we did not set a limit up to which we are supposed to increase them. Like there is no end point as such. So what is happening in places like Madhya Pradesh is most of the reserves, they have overpopulation. Most of the reserves are saturated, and now the tigers, they are venturing outside the boundaries of the tiger reserve, and in the process some of them are getting poached. So, in your opinion, sir, what should be the, like, when do we say that Project Tiger has achieved its goals? What should be the limit up to which? Because every year we see the number of tigers, they are rising, but the forests, they are shrinking, and it is getting fragmented, as you have rightly pointed out in your PPT. So, sir, what should be the end point? Like, when should we say that yes, we have achieved our goals?
See, the one point, like our forest area is not shrinking much, but degrading. How is degradation happens? Lot of weeds, plants which animals cannot eat. Ungulates, they need good forage. If ungulate population has to thrive, the good forage should be there. There is a lot of weed. Ungulates, what will they eat? When I did my study in Bandipur in those days, lot of sambar. Now the sambar number is very low. The reason is lot of Lanjana. I was telling you cases Punjab. Tiger number also has gone up. And the predation of the tiger is very heavy. Already there are wild dogs. Okay. And so degradation, this point you have to remember as forest officer. Degradation of forest is a huge challenge throughout India. Okay. So tiger number, this is, you can't go high also. I mean, somebody will say that you have 10,000 tigers. I will say they are wrong. If there are 10,000 tigers, I tell you, the people living there in forest area, they cannot survive there. Lot of conflict will be there. The staff cannot walk there. Even now there is a lot of conflict with the tigers. Staff get attacked and villages get eaten by tigers. So the tiger number needs to be controlled actually. You can't allow it to go. And it will not go also because whatever, see that north, there is a lot of tiger poaching. The reason is close to Nepal, closer to China. You can easily smuggle things to Nepal and to China. But in South India, it's very difficult for the North Indian poachers to come and kill tigers and take the bone to Nepal and China. Okay. So the poaching will control the tiger number. It's happening. It's happening throughout India, largely in the North Indian Gulf, because it's easy to smuggle everything across river Sharada to Nepal and it will go. And the conflict, people also will poison and kill the tiger. See, it's difficult to kill the elephant and hide it, but a tiger can be poisoned and killed and hidden. You cut into pieces and you can bury it or you can burn it, and easily can hide that. So that is going to control the population. People will not tolerate, like our Abhishek has gone. Kerala, for example, cattle, even a cattle lift will not be tolerated in Kerala. But in the central and like in our, what is that place in the Chandrapur area? Closer to Taraba, that one place. Amazing number of people get killed every year. Brahmapuri. Amazing people. The poor people, voiceless people get tolerated. Kerala will not happen. Kerala, they will not allow a tiger to kill even livestock. Okay. So the poor people they tolerate, the voiceless people they tolerate, and but they also will eventually go for poisoning. So the tiger number will be controlled by this conflict, by poaching as well as conflict with the people. Okay. And so government cannot decide, we'll have 2,000 tigers, 3,000. It's not possible for us to decide that. That the conditions, socio-economic conditions and the poaching will decide that. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Yes, sir. Hello, sir. I am Anshu Chawla from Uttar Pradesh. Sir, if an animal is declared as man-eater, so we have the option of either we kill it or we capture it and keep it in isolation. So is there any other way out? Because in isolation they become more aggressive, and once it will happen in Uttarakhand only that other animal got killed, other female leopard got killed and she was pregnant. लेपर्ड was killed man and उसमें confusion में वो दूसरा leopard kill कर दिया गया. So is there any other way out?
See, there is a group now, they are very actually talking about the hunting. It's a very controversial thing. People say that, you know, if there are tigers are a problem, tigers are their problem, leopards are there is a lot of oil pigs damaging the crops, nilgai is feeding on the crops. How about hunting them? And you know, in some of the countries like North America, hunting is very common. And Africa also, they use hunting as a tool in conservation. And these people are asking a very valuable question, you know, if there is a man-eating tiger and why don't you hunt it? A foreigner will be able to come and pay some $100,000. Use that money for conservation. People are talking about it. So I think we may have to think about that also. If animals become excess, how will you, if there is animals like Parigadwa in Uttaranchal, you know, a lot of, in those days, you know, leopards used to kill people. I mean, how will you control, instead of killing or putting them in the zoo, where zoos are already overpopulated, and feeding the animals also very difficult. Now, you know, that because of the cattle ban, people have to kill only buffalo. So tomorrow people say, you can't kill buffaloes, you will not get enough meat to feed the animals in the zoo. You have to go only for the broiler chicken. Broiler chicken are not easy, I don't eat them much. So tigers also may not like broiler chicken. So what I'm saying is, one has to think about hunting eventually when you have problem animals. Wild pigs cause enormous problem. Why don't you allow people to hunt them? Not culling. Hunting, you know, people go and hunt them, pay money to those villages like Kerala. Unfortunately, they were killing wild pigs, they were burying it. In Northeast India, like people from Nagaland, many people, you know, they are very fond of eating wild pork. Then in Kerala, so I told, you know, auction it and give the money to the farmer, you know, who in his whose field, you know, the pigs were shot. So we have to think about it now, that you can use the hunting as a conservation tool to address the problem animals. This is my point. But one foreigner, one long time ago, he told me, see, I have heard good things about you, but you also talk about hunting. Don't do that. You address me. So people are against hunting in our country, but conservation, hunting is a conservation tool. I think we have to think about it very seriously. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful and interactive session with us. Further, I would like to call Dr. Ravi Singh, sir, Secretary General and CEO, WWF India, to address us. Sir.
Thank you. Am I audible? Yeah, thank you. I have a few points I've noted down for PK Sen, so I'll be reading through my phone, but that's not the reason that I have this here. At the outset, I must thank the Institute, the director, the senior staff, all of you for being here. It's an important occasion. It is World Wildlife Day. It is the single most celebrated day for wildlife globally. We have others. We have World Environment Day, we have Earth Day. But specifically for wildlife, this is an important day. It's a difficult time for wildlife globally. I can say that we are facing a lot of challenges as a human race by itself. Pestilence, disease, war, poverty. And as a result of much of this, wildlife across the large regions of India is also, across large regions of the world, also suffers. And I'm proud to say that in my nation, we celebrate Wildlife Day. We also have a Wildlife Week. And once we mention this abroad and we mention this in international fora, people cannot understand that how a country like India does this. And then you go back to explain the heritage, the religious connect, the historical connect, all these aspects. And this is very important and significant to us. I think there are some things I'd like to say a little bit about Dr. John Singh later, but certainly about PK Sen in this occasion. While we're doing that, I'd say that you will represent at different level the leadership in the field and institutionally for our country in the states and areas that you will serve. You are not just officers of state with the remit to undertake and to carry forward the work assigned to you by the government and the people of India. That you have. But you should see yourselves as leaders and persons who can do things which in your own way may not be difficult to see it in a different perspective, but from the outside, from the social aspect, some of the things that you can do are iconic. It could make a huge difference to wildlife, to communities, and to the ways you go forward. And here I'll give you something about attribution and the power of attribution. But before I do that, I'd say that people represent wildlife conservation in a big way. Dr. John Singh, who is our teacher, our professor, our demagogue in many ways, gathering people together in a very, very different way. But in terms of, he's a teacher, he's a pedagogue. He is a person who gets us together and gets us out in the field and leads on that. I have here some real people who work on the ground. There's, please get up. This is Dr. A.K. Singh, Anil Kumar Singh, who heads our Tarayak landscape, based out of Dehradun. And here is Bopanna, who is a field person who takes charge of the landscape that you are in Rajaji and going towards the areas, both in the upper regions as well as in the riverine forests. And through their leadership, much has been done, not just in the Tarai, but other areas too. And the work that we do with the Forest Department and the contributions thereof, I mean, they can talk far more on this aspect than I can. And certainly, they have taken lessons from Dr. John Singh on how to do this. Last year, during the midst of COVID, we assisted the Forest Department of Uttarakhand to relocate 2 tigers into Rajaji, into Western Rajaji, and you understand why this was done, to augment the population and all that. It is so difficult sometimes to do this, to prepare, to be able to go forward in this, to prepare the security, to talk to the communities, to get everyone on your side. And it has taken something close to 6 to 8 years of work, which culminated in something that happened last time. And here is a combination of people like PK Sen, whose inspiration that many of you will see, and the kind of knowledge that brings about by Dr. John Singh. And these, and institutional backing from the Forest Department and organizations like mine. These are, many things have to come together for success to happen. I also have in my team Dr. Saket Badola, who is on the podium, who's an Indian Forest Service officer. He is on deputation to Traffic India. He heads Traffic India, which basically looks after the prevention of illegal trade and, takes forward the conservation of species and undertakes training on enforcement and capacity building across different areas. And you will see the work of this when you are in service, and you'll see a lot of work with regard to that. So it requires a different lot of people to do this. And I just say that this city of Dehradun, this area where you have so many institutes, so much intelligence, so much knowledge, so much attribution that happens as a result of your coming together, learning, understanding, and then going and radiating across India, different areas. You know, there's botanical survey, there are the paramilitary and military institutes, and of course, really the headquarter in a way of the knowledge for forestry, wildlife, and research. So while you're here, use your time well. This time will not come again in your lives. And I can say that being a trainer, this is a special time of your life. These are golden days. Use them well, read well. Dr. Johnson has said, go out into your country, explore, understand. This is the best tribute you can pay, both to your nation as well as because it leads to understanding. What are the interactions? What do communities want? What's happening in wildlife? How things are changing. Secondly, read. He talked about books, but between us, we can give you a list of books and bibliography with which you should understand the history of your country going up to when this entire aspect started of forest conservation and why we are in this. What are the laws? What happened here? Starting from, Manu Smriti, all the way to what is happening today. What is India's leadership in legislation? All these aspects. Why is it that we are respected globally as a nation for conservation and environment management? But read also those, spoke about Billy Arjun Singh, Jim Corbett, others, the writings in the Journal of the Bombay Natural History Society. To basically understand your country, the interactions, and with this you will get knowledge. And with that knowledge, you'll be able to apply. And with the attribution of knowledge, you'll be able to practically take things into action. And therefore, I say this very openly. Frankly, bringing all these together, Dr. Johnson is a unique person. China might have 4 species of bears, but India has 1 Johnson. Okay. I think there is no compare. I once went, we have these treks in the wild. We bring communities, young people together and do these walks. We've been doing walks in the Kanha, Pech, and Kanha Achanak Kumar corridors. So one year, I accompanied, we were in a group, we accompanied Dr. John Singh, walked for 22 kilometers that day. And it was like a continuous laboratory of, it was an interpretation of nature through Dr. John Singh walking everything, every tree, every bark, every plant, every sign, everything. And it's just fundamentally so different to be able to do it. And I strongly suggest you still have the power to do this in your own way. And I suggest you do this. And take somebody who's a leader and understanding of this, take it forward. We started, WWF India started in many ways the environment education work in India in the 70s. We had leaders, we had one particular teacher who could take you and spend an entire day under a tree explaining what the ecology of the tree was, what it meant, what were the attributes, what were the dependencies, what were the externalities, and you would not feel bored for a single minute. There are such teachers in my country, and Dr. Johnson represents one of them. I'd just like to say a few points about PK Sen. PK was my colleague when I joined WWF, he was the leader, he was heading the species division. And he was one who I took a lot of knowledge from because of his experience in life. And as a result of working together, and he initiated much of this, a lot of the landscapes which we devised later as an organization, conceiving them, placing them, mapping them, seeing what the work that we could do, we did together. And I think he led by establishing field camps and field offices in the Tarai, Central India and Mandla, and in the Nilgiris. And this led to our expanding the program further, taking it on to the Brahmaputra landscape, Sundarbans, of course, in the Himalayas, and also later to Ranthambore and the Western India tiger landscape. Now, these are areas that, and he knew them intimately. He knew people and the interactions and the issues that were there. So it was great learning from that entire thing. He's a very hard taskmaster. I have many incidents to talk about it, but I'd basically say that he was born in Bengal, he's born in Calcutta, but family moved to Bihar, and he always considered himself a person from Bihar. He knew Bihar well, he knew the interactions, he understood the laws, he knew the contribution of Bihar to the independence of India. He understood the importance of the distribution of forests, revenue and forest, and the settlement thereof, and how important was it for our forest policy and interactions and all that. He was Chief Wildlife Warden of Bihar. He was Field Director of the Palamau Tiger Reserve, something that never left him. It was always in his heart until his last days. And while he was Project Director, he's Director Project Tiger, being a leader and somebody who's iconic in his own way, he did things to bring out issues that were hidden for some time by challenging his own government sometimes to say, tiger populations are falling, let's do something about it, let's increase the capacity, let's increase the training and the enforcement. His words to me quite often, I remember, since you are young people here, he joined the service in 1969. And he told me that his mother prepared his clothes, and in those days we had these trunks. So the tin trunk was put together and it had to fit in a railway compartment or a bus. He took a bus and a hold all. And he described me very detailed, in a lot of detail, how this was put together, and he took that and reported for service. And the DFO who's in charge of his training took him on board, talked to him, gave him a couple of questions to answer, which PK did with some amount of alacrity. But I would imagine there was some interaction which always kept with PK through his life. Because he said, although I reported in time for duty, but my time that he put on my record was the second half of the day and not the first half of the day. So in the 35 odd years of his service life, he always held that against his boss, that you did not take me in, I came in time and all that. But he was very, very, very punctilious, very pushy, very much understanding what was important, and a great desire to move forward and do better for the frontline staff. I think that was his passion. And we will, as an organization in commemoration, we have undertaken work for frontline staff, but we will also establish perhaps one or two initiatives in PK's name, somewhere. Particularly, I'm interested it would be done in a landscape that he was. He loved, maybe somewhere in the Tarai or in Bihar, where we could, attribute something and make sure the frontline staff would be benefited as a result of that. And this is a lesson for you that no matter what happens, always look after your frontline staff. They are the soldiers in the front. They go through a huge amount of difficulty. And while the government of India and your state governments and other organizations help to ameliorate their conditions, we have a long way to go. And this is important. And we should go ahead and change this. I would say just a couple of things before I finish. I think always look at issues of initiative, sometimes at the time when things are really difficult. And that difficulty gives rise to opportunity. I'll give you an example. We were going through a very tough time in tiger poaching. We had lost populations in Sariska and Panna. We had incidents everywhere, and everyone was really very, very sensitive to this entire thing. At that period of time, through Traffic India, through Saket's senior colleague, who is now who's also a forest officer, Samir Sinha. He and I sat down to understand, okay, what can we do which would be something different, which would lead to certain amount of morale building and a force multiplier for the enforcement people. And we came up with this initiative, which is called the Sniffer Dog Initiative. Dr. John Singh mentioned it. And this was where we took dogs from kennels in Haryana and Punjab, talked to the forest departments, got them trained in the academy, in BSF Academy in Tekanpur in Madhya Pradesh, and then gave them to areas in states where some of the poaching issues were very, very high. And now we have crossed, I think, we've crossed 60 such sniffer dogs, and each one of them in my office maintains a record of their, what is called a dossier of their duty. And it is worth reading what they are able to achieve as a result of that. It is both a morale booster. It is also a demonstrator in the field. And the work is with tremendous amount of dedication that the dogs put to the commitment that they have for the duties they perform. And now Saket is also discussing with the customs whether we could put some of these sniffer dogs into our ports and in our custom areas, so as to prevent smuggling and illegal trade in wildlife and their derivatives. I'll just talk about 2 or 3 things that you need to be very understanding and take into account what are the sort of threats that we are facing. Number one, the huge issue as regards climate change and the effects thereof that are going to come to us no matter where we live. India will be hit in areas like Bengal, in Sundarbans, in the coastal regions, but also in the Himalayas, in the sub-mountain regions and other areas. You as officers must understand by reading and through your own personal knowledge and interaction with your seniors and with the ministries, etc., to understand how it's going to affect us and our communities in these areas. And what could be our mitigating factors? How do we adapt? How do we mitigate some of these issues? Adaptation is going to be a major issue. It's not entirely centered right now in our thinking, and it should be. And this is something that you must constantly look at least for the near future. Second aspect, we have a huge threat with regard to diseases which are going to affect our wildlife. You know, one side is issues like CDV, which we are increasingly seeing in different parts of the country. It's a major threat, certainly to big cats, but also to other wildlife. And the other issue is that with the decline of ecological connections, the increase in zoonotic diseases is something that we are seeing more and more. And therefore, to combat all this, require a different way of thinking. One is in terms of thinking, knowledge, experience, expertise, and the other is to be able to bring communities and departments of the government together to see some of these connectivities continue, not just in forests, but also in riverine systems. Thirdly, when you observe, we are seeing as an organization also through citizen science, State of India's birds, basically decline in raptor populations across India. Just like tigers are an indicator, raptors are also an indicator of the environment. We are seeing a decline in raptor populations, and this is something that by observation, by understanding what the issues are, the decline of the fish in the Kosi, in the Sharda, in the Ramganga, the increase in heavy metal in garbage dumps and in water, the use of DDT, the lack of calcium, many other issues. But some of these will be directly under your area of understanding and management. And there is no option for us but to interact and to counter this. Dr. John Singh was involved together with somebody who is very close to me, who is no more now, Rati Puri, in reintroduction of Mahaseer population in a tea garden near Kurseong in Darjeeling. It's a Darjeeling tea garden called Glendale. It took 4 years for it to conceive, many hiccups, but ultimately the fingerlings were introduced, and hopefully this will succeed. Very small thing it looks like to us. But introduction of species, my organization has been involved in other introductions, tigers, rhino, gharial. But it takes a very, very long to plan all this. 4 to 5 years to come to the point of release of fingerlings. I told you about 8 years to plan for something that we did here, Rajaji for tigers. So much more to conceive and plan for other things, rhino included. There's a lot of effort that goes at the back. A lot of this is not attributed at the time of release because nobody really sees the effort except the forest department and except the state governments. Of course, our government is the center too. But generally in media, generally most people don't see that. They only see the last part of the tape. And you, together with us, all of us, in your leadership, that attribution of the effort is actually the main process that you represent. And that is the main work that is undertaken by institutions like this one and for services like yours. Thank you. That's all I'd like to say. I thank you for giving me a chance to talk. I thank you for the work you are doing and for what you are going to be representing for the future. And in our walks of life, we may interact with each other again and perhaps talk more about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I request you once again to formally hand over the draft for one-time grant to institutionalize the PK Sen Conservation Award to Principal CASPOS in the gracious presence of Director IGNFA. I also invite all the dignitaries to launch Traffic India's new letter, Traffic Post ID cards for most trafficked owl species in India.
Well, everyone is here and also the species of
And also for this traffic post also, they are not, but I will share a link with nice clipboard. Read it on your and
Good work that you're doing. This is good.
Moving forward, I would like to invite Sri Bharat Jyoti sir, IFS, Director IGNFA, for the concluding remarks.
No, in my, sorry, one second. During my BEC days, we had English prose. There in one lesson saying, reading maketh a full man. Singh was telling about the importance of reading. Reading maketh a full man. Conversation a ready man. If we discuss a lot and so on, you have good ideas. Sentiment, good English. Sentiment. When you try to write something, by speaking, you make mistake and everything, but when you write, these things are very important. Reading.
Dr. John Singh, Mr. Ravi Singh, Saket from Traffic India, Principal CASFOS, Dr. A.K. Singh and Dr. Bapana from WWF, and dear young friends, it's really a memorable occasion for me to be here with Dr. John Singh, whose life has been fully dedicated to conservation of wildlife. It's also, I find myself very fortunate today to be in the company of Sri Ravi Singh, Secretary General and CEO WWF India, who has been a relentless crusader for last maybe 3 decades or more on the agenda of conservation in the country against so many odds and so many difficult situations. I must mention at this gathering that I had also, as Director Ecology and Environment in Bihar, and then later as Chief Wildlife Warden Bihar, association with WWF, and some initiatives that we could take during that period are bearing fruits now and going ahead. I think Dr. A.K. Singh would affirm or would have observations about that. And as the leader of WWF, Dr. Ravi Singh would be now more aware of the situation and turn of events that is happening there. Later, once I found that one of the expert professionals in the mind and body of Dr. John Singh had not visited Bihar. And I was really feeling that this was something amiss about it. because Bihar has also, all states in the country, the conservation and wildlife issues are very important, and the state should also benefit from footprints of such an excellent and such a wise person in the field of wildlife conservation. And it was with this, in association with Dr. A.K. Singh and Kamlesh Maurya, actually, I could get hold of Dr. John Singh to visit Bihar. And he spent a lot of time, I think a fortnight he was with us. He visited 2 or 3 landscapes apart from Valmiki. He also visited Kaimur, and maybe Gaya also you could visit. Kaimur he visited. And we got his, you can say, counsel based on his observations, which are really many a time very diagnostic, very unconventional in the way that we as foresters, we are not within the department, we are not able to look things from that lens which he uses. I think in today's session also, you would have got so many nuggets of wisdom, so many insights, and a lot of bytes and bytes of information about wildlife, wild animals. And it is for you to connect the dots, get something actionable when you are in the field. Likewise, I think before me, Ravi Singh sir has given you so many food for thoughts and inspiring ideas. They can talk hours and hours together with this team of officers. It is for you later when you go back, when you are in your field after this training, you can connect with them, you can get ideas and support for action in your field positions to chart new paths, to make innovations, to look at things from wildlife angle in different perspectives. Traffic India, led by Dr. Saket Badola, is really very active these days, and I think every other couple of months we listen to the initiatives, new accomplishments, new tools, new means where the illegal trade and traffic in many of the wild animals hitherto unattended are getting proper focus. At this time, today, the World Wildlife Day, we have also assembled to remember one of the doyens of wildlife conservation in the country, and late Mr. Prashant Kumar Sen. I, being from cadre of Bihar, I can recall my association with him from 1988 till last year. And in my mobile, I have his message that I would like to actually read out to you. Maybe sometimes being emotional is also good. That was something on the day of Holika Dahan. I think he would have forwarded this good message to many of his near and dear ones. I consider myself to be fortunate because he also had some affectionate place about me during this course of his life. I think intermittently I had occasions to interact with him, and every time he was very supportive, every time he would guide me, encourage me, and inspire me. When I was Chief Wildlife Warden, I had occasion. He had visited Bhimband Wildlife Sanctuary, Munger, his place. And then I had an occasion to interact with him. And long back, when he was Chief Wildlife Warden of Bihar, I was in a committee with him that was tasked by the state government to find out possibility of excluding certain areas from Kaimur Wildlife Sanctuary for limestone mining. And I had that experience with him, how he actually visited that area and what sort of observations he made, and with a very categorical and firm viewpoint, he gave his recommendation that what could be seeded and what could not be seeded. Later, the issue was not resolved at that point of time, and that was in 1995, and maybe in 2014, again the same thing was visited by the Government of India's team with professor, a scientist from WII, and another member of National Board for Wildlife. I was also part of that, assisting and coordinating that team. And that team also again came to the same conclusion, not an inch this side, not an inch that side. So that you can say that the sagacity of that person, his insight, his understanding has really withstood the, you can say, pressures and the competing demands of the economy and all those development processes. So that is one thing. There are so many things I can recall about Sen sir, but that is all I could share at this moment. Actually, he had written, that was a day before that Holika Day, Holika Dahan. So आज का होलिका दहन कोरोना के विषाणुओं का दहन करे, कल का गुलाल अबीर वातावरण में जमे वायरस बैक्टीरिया को खत्म करे। इसी कामना के साथ आप सभी लोगों को होली की हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं। He was a very jovial person. He was a very jovial person, very warm-hearted, and for his, as Ravi Singh sir has said, that he was very, very sympathetic or empathetic about his staff. That way, he was also very sympathetic or very supporting of his subordinates and young officers working with him. So nobody can go from him with a inkling of disappointment or this sort of thing. Even if he would have discussions, things like that, one may not agree, but his way of actually dealing with the person was always affectionate, full of affection and warmth and caring for the other persons. So I think he had many attributes and virtues. We lost him, lost so many of dear persons last Corona. That is my actually tribute to him on this day, and you will have occasions to have interactions with me on wildlife related issues also. Maybe I have my own perspectives, and many of them are, you can say, in consonance with what Dr. John Singh has said now, that is regarding hunting as part of a solution or part of management tool. So they are definitely, you are in a different time. The time when we had this Wildlife Conservation Protection Act in 1972 enacted and initiatives were taken. Now 40 years after that, the realities have also changed a lot. And somehow we have not been able to revisit certain things, certain strategies, certain approaches while dealing with wildlife conservation in the country. And that is these things are really wildlife, environment, ecology. All these are very complex, and they have to be negotiated with. You can say that complexity one has to address. One has to confront those complications and come out with the many a time solutions which are not optimal, which are suboptimal. But we have to accept that those suboptimal solutions also, instead of going ahead with certain things which have become anachronism now, impracticable now, or which have more of emotive content in that than a sound rationality. That is what I have understood dealing the wildlife issues in Bihar for a long time. I had my beginning was also in one of the areas where P.K. Sen became field director. My initial training was in Palamu Tiger Reserve, and my also knowledge and understanding or whatever goes back to that. So it is really, I'm really fortunate to be here in company with Dr. John Singh and in company with Ravi Singh and Saket Batola. So thanks a lot to Principal Casfos and Team Casfos for inviting me for this program. And let us really dedicate ourselves to the wildlife conservation agenda of the country and the world, and inspired by late P.K. Sen on this day of World Wildlife Day. And really, I must appreciate the contributions, which is something very spontaneous from WWF, whatever they are doing in memory of late Sen. And Saket had approached me for some other thing, but at least it has come to Casfos. That is another a very good initiative. Let us see how things go ahead, and we should reinforce these linkages and reinforce these initiatives. So that's from my side, and all the best to the probationers, the trainees today. Fine. Thank you and Jai Hind.
With your permission, I'll take half a minute. You know, B.K. Sen used to call me John. John, how are you? I mean, as he said, very affectionate. He will hug you and he'll tap on your shoulder, back and so on. Very affectionate person, very bold person, used to call a spade a spade. Many people don't have that capability, you know. People like to try to please others, but he never did it actually. He'll call a spade a spade. Okay. Now, going to Bihar, I think our when he came to Wildlife Institute, he was presented, I think, one of my books on Jim Corbell trails and other tales from the jungle. So he went through that, many articles about many places, no article about Bihar. Then he complained, I think, to Ravi Singh, what is this? And so Ravi Singh arranged my trip. I went to A.K. Singh and so on to Bihar, to Valmiki Tiger Reserve and the Kaimur Wildlife Sanctuary. Some 30 years ago, 25 years ago, I wanted to go to Bihar. Then Mr. Katwal, RPS Katwal, he told me, don't go, you'll be kidnapped. That was the situation in Bihar. But this time when I went, I mean, that was some 3 years ago when I went. What a recovery. I mean, now recently I spoke to that officer who has been transferred now. He said the tiger population has gone up. Rhinos from Chittagong is coming into that area. And a lot of improvement. What was touching was lot of poor, I used to tell people in South India are very fortunate to live in South India. You go to Bangalore, a shop, you see amazing amount of fruits and food and this and that. But in the boundary of Valmiki Tiger Reserve, if you see the poverty, you feel like crying. And the villages, evening they sell some chicken or broiler and some boiled egg, nothing else they find. Okay. And I used to tell people in South, we have a lot, amazing amount of fish and everything and fruits and nuts and everything in the shop are full of that. And Valmiki Tiger was giving lot of employment to the poor people. The poor people in that belt, they used to come by cycle, 10 kilometers cycling, they will come and work in the Valmiki Tiger Reserve. So that was a great benefit coming to the local people, so they could get the support of the people actually. Okay. Another thing, when I drove to Kaimur, I saw amazing number of palmyra trees. See, I come from Tirunelveli district, southernmost district in Tamil Nadu, close to Kanyakumari. I grew up drinking that palmyra juice. Very healthy, very healthy. Even now I use that palmyra jaggery. And in Bihar, the people used to climb the tree to get toddy. But unfortunately, our chief minister, what's his name? Nitish said, I will banish liquor from the country. He stopped tapping toddy also. Nobody is climbing. Amazing, healthy trees I saw. Healthy palmyra trees I saw. So I was telling the people.
Okay, please carry on.
I think you may not have been tap toddy, but get that palmyra juice and make jaggery. And jaggery, for example, Tamil Nadu, selling for 1 kilo 400 rupees. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was asking, whether there are any trainees from Bihar. So Bihar should make use of this palmyra trees to get a lot of revenue for the local people, and preparing this palmyra jaggery is supposed to be very healthy. So it was a wonderful trip to Bihar, and I learnt a lot. And thanks to Mr. Ravi Singh and the A.K. Singh team, actually we had a great time there, understanding Bihar. Thank you.
Thank you, one and all, from my side. Last but not the least, I would like to invite Shri Pradeep Pahule sir, IFS, Controller of Examination, CASPOS Dehradun, to propose the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Apurva. Respected chief guest of today's function, Dr. A.G.D. Johnson sir, Shri Bharat Jyoti sir, Director, Indira Gandhi National Forest Academy, Dehradun, Ms. Nidhi Srivastava, Principal, Central Academy for State Forest Service, Dehradun, Shri Ravi Singh sir, Secretary General and CEO, WWF India, Dr. Saket Badula, Head Traffic India, family members and friends of late Dr. P.K. Sen, who have joined us online through the YouTube link, I'm told. Dr. I.P. Bopanna, Dr. A.K. Singh, both from WWF India, Shri Abhilash Damodaran, lecturer at this academy, Shri Amilendu Pathak, Shri Ankit Gupta, Swayal Sahab, and Anupam Verma, officer trainees of the 35th SFS induction course, and all the esteemed guests who have joined us online on YouTube. A very good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen. I, Pradeep Pahule, lecturer and controller of examinations at this academy. I'm extremely delighted to propose a formal vote of thanks. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. A.G.D. Johnson for his very insightful lecture on wildlife management. And what could be a better way to celebrate World Wildlife Day than to have an esteemed presence and words of wisdom in the field of wildlife conservation from none other than Dr. A.G.D. Johnson himself, and that too in his own inimitable style. I mean, we all enjoyed it thoroughly, sir. Today we have also inaugurated the endowment of the P.K. Sen Memorial Conservationist Award in your magnanimous presence. Sir, we are extremely thankful to you for sparing your valuable time and efforts for this noble cause. We also have an equally ennobling presence of respected Shri Bharat Jyoti sir, he just left, uh, for his valuable inputs and guidance and sharing emotional memories of late Shri P.K. Sen sir. We are extremely thankful for his kind presence today. I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to Shri Mukul Trivedi sir, who also couldn't join us today because of some meeting he had to attend. He is Director of Forest Education, who has been instrumental in expediting the process of endowment of the P.K. Sen Memorial Conservationist Award from his office for our officer trainees at the Central Academy State Forest Service, Dehradun. I earnestly thank Nidhi Srivastava Madam, principal of our academy, for being a constant support in all our endeavors to make such programs successful. She's also president of the Officers Club, Task Force Dehradun, under the aegis of which we are conducting this important event today. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Shri Ravi Singh sir, Secretary General and CEO WWF India, for his valuable time and helping us constitute the P.K. Sen Memorial Award in this academy. Thank you, sir, for sharing valuable insights of the life of late Shri P.K. Sen sir and advising our young officers, young forest officers on how they should be conducting themselves as wildlife managers in field. Thank you so much, sir. And of course, Dr. Saket Badola, Head Traffic India, he was with us throughout the process. It was he who gave such a wondrous form to this entire concept and execution of the event. Without him, today's event may not have materialized the way we have witnessed it. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. I also thank Dr. Bopanna. Of course, we couldn't get to interact with you, but I think we look forward to some interactive sessions, and we'll invite you over for certain sessions, lecture sessions for our officer trainees. So thanks, Dr. Bopanna and Dr. A.K. Singh for being with us. And of course, I would speak about my colleagues and faculty members, Shri Abhilash Damodaran, Shri Amilandu Patak, Shri Ankit Gupta, Shri P.N. Suyal, Shri Verma, Anupam Verma. They have all worked together to micromanage this program today, and I can't thank them enough. Online, we have family members of late Dr. P.K. Sen, especially his daughter, Ms. Richa Prashant, who could not join us today, but we are sure we will meet her soon. Ma'am, I spoke to her yesterday, and we're looking forward to inviting her in the next session, as what Dr. Badola has suggested, that we'll have this as an annual affair, and definitely would be happy to invite a family member from P.K. Sen sir's house. Last but not the least, I'm extremely thankful to you all officer trainees of the 35th SFS induction course 2021-23, all the esteemed guests who have joined this program online through the YouTube live streaming link, and all the organizers of the Officers Club, Task Force Dehradun, and our office and IT staff who have come forward to make this event a great success. Once again, thank you, one and all. Jai Hind. I would request all our esteemed guests and our OTs to please join us for refreshments and tea. It was arranged, but I think it's a lunchtime as well at the same time. But since it is arranged, we can just partake of it, please. Thank you so much.
I put some extra points here after.